Great. Thank you very much to all speakers for keeping it short, most importantly. I know there is probably much more to say about pretty much everything that we heard today, and it's precisely for that reason that we allocated some additional time now for open discussion, because I'm sure there is a lot of people in the audience who have also a lot of things to say. So now I would like to invite all speakers on stage so that we can have kind of a round table discussion before lunch. And that, remember, that includes the first part of this prevention and preparedness session. So all speakers that presented in this session and in the previous one before the coffee break, if you could please come up here. We'll try to arrange everyone near the stage. And for the rest of you, just get prepared, get your questions ready, because we have some time, but we won't be here forever. So if you have clear your questions, just fire them. So, well, this is a wonderful opportunity to have so many experts from so different fields all together. So, I mean, I'm sure there can be a lot of great discussions here. And I don't know, probably the main conclusion I reached, at least, is that researchers are doing a great job. Like, we're providing lots of information about lots of different things. But it seems like fire practitioners from the operational world and people from the government are not really getting what they need. So just to start the discussion, I would like to leave that question there, like how can we match those two worlds so that we researchers can provide what operational people and policymakers need, or if you have any other questions in general. That's it.
I'm Jordi from Fire and Rescue Service. My question is for Pepa Moran. What kind of framework do you think could be useful to put your methods in practice, for example? What do you think?
What kind of framework? You mean people involved in this framework? I think asking also the question that Miguel was doing. I think there is not a problem of, in my opinion, of course, of that we don't reach to the political policy makers. We think, I think, or our community thinks that what is lacking is also a commitment. I don't know if you, because in our case, we can produce many cartographies, we can reduce uncertainty related to vulnerability, but there has to be a commitment to apply these cartographies into decision making. And we think there is not the enough commitment in political decision making, in our experience. So we have started from bottom up, and we think that is a very good opportunity. Also, landscape architecture is changing in these terms. People are much more concerned on social issues and offering our work to social communities. And we think that when people is involved in the problem through even a physical relation, we will get these people working with us. But some political, I'm sorry for saying that, but are not so much involved as they should, we think. So we think that it's an opportunity of a collaboratory work if we could work together from bottom up, from bottom to up, because there are needs where many of us are speaking about the wildfire in the interface areas, and we are thinking about obligations to people, but it means there should be opportunities. And that means that there is work to do because there are people who want to change things there. So I find that we have to explore other ways of working, and I think the work that you are showing is great. There is not a problem with, we are not arriving to a political decision making. We are arriving, but we are not only the people who have to arrive to political decision makers. The citizens has to ask the political to change things. I think so. Yes?
Hello, I have a question to Maria Papio. You have talked about the 25 meters wide strip, and I would like you to ask what kind of research would you like in order to improve that general provision in terms of that 25 meters? What would you be asking to researchers to improve that? What type of tool would you be happy with in order to improve your work? Could you develop a little bit more on that, on the need? Thank you.
Yes. The legislation, the law says that it's 25 meters for all the residential areas and isolated buildings in the province of Girona, but we have real differences between territorial areas. So maybe in some areas it's enough with 5 or 10 meters. Some areas, because of the topography, the woodland areas, is necessary 50 or 80 meters. It depends. It means we have to take care of other parameters as the typical fire, or things like that. I mean, so it's necessary to concretize in each area in function of all the other parameters. I mean, so it's not the same for all the areas. And we are starting a study with a project, European project, that we will try to develop the minimum wide area to be sure that people can be confined in their houses.
Right. Okay, thank you. So you would be happy with, let's say, a sort of model, sort of structure in which you could input some characteristics of your landscape or your forest around the settlement and so on, and then get with the range of distance. Yes. Would you be happy with a sort of a model like that?
Yes, we want to have enough data that we can change the framework, the legal framework for in the moment. I mean, nowadays it's 25 meters for everything, and it's a first thing, so it's good to have this, but it's not the real necessary dimension in order to confine people, or even we have to calculate if these perimeter bands are enough, or maybe we should have other preventive measures.
All right, thanks.
Sorry, because my English, I have to improve.
Hi. I didn't want to make that question, but I think it's good for all of us to think a little bit, so I will push you a little bit now. So we are involved in a big process in Portugal is unfolding about who is responsible or who has to pay for more than 100 people that die in the wildfire. And we, the operational, developed a strategy. So we've been applying what researchers have said. So we are not responsible for the deaths. Because somebody said me that 25 meters will be enough, or that fire spread model will tell me what the fire will do, or that weather model will explain me or help me to predict what the fire will do. So are you willing to get more funding, a lot more funding, just taking some responsibility, or you want to keep going with the low funding you have right now and not be involved in the responsibility? I think that's where the point is. You want to be guilty with us? We share the money. We don't share the money if you are not charging with the charges with us. What do you have to say about that?
I think that is a great proposal. And I definitely appreciate the need to push that responsibility back to the modelers. I think that what I've seen in the development of the models that we use operationally in the US is that there's been a recognition that models are abstractions of reality, and that they, for many, many years, the capabilities of the models were clearly recognized as not being capable of providing the full detail. I think that we are now starting to develop systems that have more robust characteristics. So I would personally think that would be a great idea, that there be a closer relationship between the opportunity for more funding for research be coupled with a higher level of responsibility in the. However, I think it also requires a shift where we recognize that there are things that are, even with the best systems, we're not going to be able to predict every situation. So I think that as a society, we need to frame the problem in terms of a range of outcomes, or more probabilistic kind of framing of outcomes, and not specific where the fire will be at this exact point, but the likelihood that it will be between here and here, I think is a really good way to go. Anyway, that's how I look at it.
Well, I think we should take our responsibility, and as I showed, a safe and efficient operation is only a part of the solution, only a part. And if firefighting is implementing the protocols they have, they shouldn't have any responsibility. If the protocol is well implemented, that's fine. So I think they shouldn't take this responsibility. So why? Because it's only part of the solution. I think this is my opinion.
Well, it's a deep question, obviously, coming from you, but I think that it's important to make the point about to put the focus on the responsibility of how is the information used. So I think that it's not a good example thinking that this law about 25 meters is based in research. It's obvious that this law, it's a reaction, political reaction, trying to explain society that we are doing something, and in fact, it's a kind of paradox because we are putting people on danger, because obviously 25 meters is not offering safety, neither security, neither to the fire service, neither to the population. Yeah. But the administration is obligated to do it. So it's what I like to say, that if you want to do a good fire, now in Catalonia, if you want to do a good fire prevention plan, you are out of the law. And this is very problematic issue. And in that sense, the policymaker has the responsibility. So they should be much more open maybe to the innovations. And I said before in my presentation, and you know perfectly, Mark, some solutions from research, from technical point of view, of your solutions also, are there, but are not being implemented in the policy system because it's much more slow. So in any case, reinforce the dialogue between the practitioners and the research is one of the main challenges probably we have. I don't know the experience in other countries like USA, etc., but it's one of the gaps we have. It's while like listening some of the research, very interesting research that were presented today, I wonder myself how many of these let's say, models or things that we are doing, very interesting, involve the practitioners from the beginning in defining the tool. And this is one of the things that, but in any case, there is the last session just to how to reinforce this link between research and practice.
I just wanted to say, I think another a really important aspect of this is that in taking into consideration the limitations of models, it's better to err on the side of caution. So if the models can help us to provide better situational awareness such that firefighters and our communities are able to evacuate early or not engage in a fire in a particular way and not put themselves in the line of danger where their life depends on a model prediction, that's a good outcome.
Okay, I just want to push you. I didn't want just to bother you. And I agree with all you have said, but we have to realize that when you talk, of course we have the policymakers. They are there so they can carry with all the guilty, of course, but it's not that true. So we have, the way we say things, we have responsibility. Just take into account, okay, I made a weather prediction that the fire will shift and will hit that town, so I evacuate people on the road, and then the fire didn't get the town, but it shifted before getting the town and gets the people on the road. And the people's in the road because we send them there because we use a model. Of course, model have limitations. But before telling we know that or we model that, we have to put the limits of our knowledge, not just showing it is. And that's, if we are able to build teams like this, then instead of 3 parts, research and practitioners and policymakers, we will have 2 parts. The one that do the job, knowledge and operations, and the policymakers. Then we'll be stronger. But it was just to push you because I think we need to speed up the discussion. So thank you.
Thanks. I'm Luis Bretons from the CTFC and the CREAF here in Barcelona. I think, first, I think that you are very optimistic in that, Mark. I think that academia is mostly trained to find problems, not to solve them. So I think, but anyway, I think that this is a real challenge. So to make this bridge stronger between academia and operational structure in firefighting is really a challenge. And I want to come back to Russ actually on the stage for a question which is related to this, very related to this. I happened to be in California actually this summer with all this fire, and I just came across this kind of a discussion, academic discussion, but with a lot of impact on reality and decision making that came from academia actually also, and this letter from many researchers actually like claiming that maybe fuel reduction is not going to be like the solution to some of the problems, and this the interaction between the opinions or based on experience and all these researchers, the interaction with firefighters, strategies and policy is a very complex one. And I wanted to come to you to this particular issue, how there are different opinions based on experience, and how this is feedback on this link that Mark has been is asking, because that had explicit probably impacts on decision making, and how these links between research and operational decisions are established actually.
Okay, that's a really good question. I would say that in the US, even though we have extensively developed model systems that are now used quite widely, I would say that overall, decisions on the line, on the fire line, are made on the basis of real-world experience. It's still relatively rare that a model prediction is driving a decision on the ground. And like, for example, one of our big operational systems, which is WIFDIS, which is the Wildland Fire Decision Support System, is used to model large fires and to provide a long-term prediction of where the fire might go. And that is still less than, I think, 10% of our fires get that kind of treatment. And that's with a fairly substantial investment in that process, and it is it's growing. But the fire managers on the ground are still relying primarily on their firsthand experience when they make a call about what they're going to do. And I think that's probably good, because the models for all the development they've had are still in a state of relatively early development. But I think that as we get to better integrated systems that bring in the synoptic weather picture and provide a range of different products that look in the near and longer term, and the model development work is more mature, I think that we'll be coming into a time when the models will inform decisions much more so than they do right now.
I wonder also that this information that is produced by the research group and these kind of models and everything, does it reduce uncertainty sometimes, or maybe produce more uncertainty? Because that's the question I would do also with the comment of Mark. When research generates so much sophisticated information that improve even the uncertainty, we are not solving the question, we are getting more problems with it. And I think that we have also to manage the uncertainty that research is creating. With the situation of climate change and the situation we are dealing with, to speak about robustness is something really tough, because can we speak about robustness in this climate change situation? Or should we explain that we cannot speak about robustness in this moment, and we have to assume we are not robust enough for the situation? We have to assume this situation we are living now, because it's not only the fire extinction problem, it's the society problem. And it's not the research. We want to generate robustness as a response, but are we able so much? Maybe we should explain that we cannot assure robustness as much as we would like to, even that this is our work or our objective, but maybe we cannot do it.
Well, just a note. I think that when fires are, the duration is 1 day, they've got one run, you can somehow predict pretty well the heading fire. You get the run, the head run. But when you start to combine different weather scenarios, 2, 3, 4, 5 days duration, this gets more complicated. So the uncertainty increases a lot. If we are having many of these very large multiple day fires, fire modeling might not be the best option, but I think right now is the only one. Right now, to have an idea, okay? So for 1 day duration, very blow up events, we can somehow capture the heading fire. And this is true that we focus in the heading fire and we assume that the flanking and backing fires spread freely, which is not true. Because the contention effect, it's on the landscape, you get the fire perimeters, and you can read and understand how was the fire and see that you had a flanking, you had some contention close to the road, close to the urban areas. So there's a kind of improvement need. I think we are going in the right direction. we are trying, at least for the short duration fires, trying to integrate the contention effect. But again, if fires are getting bigger, if 2, 3, 4, 5 days duration, complex weather changing scenarios, this gets very complicated and uncertainty increases. Yeah.
Can I add to that? I really have respect for researchers and what you do, guys. Don't take me wrong. But I must just say something. So I haven't seen any big fire that we were able to predict what the fire did the first day. Because what the fire did the first day is what defined what the fire will do in the long and distance. We can go to Pedro Grande, we can go to Thomas fires, all those fires. They make the big run, and we weren't able to predict it. Once we've seen the big one, then we can extrapolate that. But Pedro Grande, we were expecting what? And then he did what? How? And what in Mati? Who was expecting that? So there is a certain point, we all agree, models don't work. That model doesn't work when fire does something. And we know how to explain it now, but it's not complexity. So because, of course, when the fires get longer, they get complex. Okay, I agree with that, that's normal. But we are focusing in a very special speed up moment. So Pedro did in half an hour, an incredible run. The same happened the night of the 15th of October. The same happened at the last half an hour of Mati. The same happened during the night of Thomas Fire or some of the Californian ones. So we need to sit together. We don't need to listen to you guys explaining us things what we already know. We need, or we ask you, and I am telling that with a lot of respect, we are telling you that you must come with us. You must see reality. Because that reality is not what it used to be. And we need to, we are not crazy. You are not bad researchers. You are really good researchers. But we are confronting things nobody explained to us, and we don't know how to explain. So we need to have a lot more humility in front of the big uncertainty we are facing. Because, I don't know, I never expect to see fire running 21 kilometers an hour. That's amazing. But what is happening today now in South Africa, it's amazing. It's amazing. When we start entering that room, the fires in South Africa just went up. It's 4 hours we are in this room. Almost 60,000 hectares. Right now. The model did predict 5,000 hectare run. So what's happening? Let's confront that. And I think that one of the conclusions is that we need to understand a lot better what you do, but you must jump in our fire engines. You must learn reality. Sorry, I tried to do that simplistic.
Well, that's probably a great way to finish this session. I'm sure we could go on for hours here, but maybe we can continue discussion during lunch. And in any case, don't worry, because right after lunch, we have the actual fire response session. And after that, we will have another time slot for more discussion. And then we have one more session. So we can now go for lunch. We'll be back at 2:30. So enjoy your lunch.